Have you ever texted someone and then they just vanish? Not blocked, not angry, not dramatic. They just disappear for days. You see them active online. Maybe they post a story. Maybe they like a meme. But your message? Silence. And if you're honest, it messes with your head. You start asking yourself questions. Did I say something wrong? Are they losing interest? Are they playing games? Or worse, do I just not matter? Here's the twist though. Most of the time, it's not about you at all. Let me show you what's really going on inside the psychology of people who disappear for days. Picture this. There's someone in your life who goes quiet whenever things get intense. Maybe after a deep conversation. Maybe after an argument. Maybe after you open up emotionally. They vanish like a cat that heard a loud noise. Gone. Under the bed. It looks rude. It feels careless. But psychologically, it's often self-protection. A lot of people who disappear have what psychologists call avoidant attachment patterns. Not because they're evil masterminds. Not because they enjoy hurting people. But because closeness activates something uncomfortable inside them. Your brain is wired for safety. And for some people, emotional closeness doesn't feel safe. It feels like pressure, like expectation, like a spotlight. Imagine your nervous system as a smoke alarm. For some people, that alarm goes off only when there's real fire. For others, it goes off when you burn toast. Intimacy, vulnerability, even just being needed, it can feel like smoke. So they step away to calm their system. Disappearing becomes regulation. You might think, but why not just say that? Why not communicate? That's where things get deeper. Many people who disappear grew up in environments where emotions weren't handled well. Maybe feelings were dismissed. Maybe conflict exploded. Maybe silence was safer than honesty. So their brain learned a simple rule. When things feel overwhelming, withdraw. Not discuss, not process, withdraw. Neuroscience backs this up. When someone feels emotionally threatened, the amygdala, the part of the brain that scans for danger, activates. For someone with high emotional sensitivity or unresolved stress, even a text that says, "Can we talk?" can trigger that system. Their body reacts before logic even gets a chance. So they don't disappear because they don't care. They disappear because their nervous system is overloaded. And then there's another type, the independent ghost. This person isn't necessarily avoidant. They just genuinely need space to function. Their brain recharges in solitude. Social interaction, even positive interaction, drains them. Think of it like a phone battery. Some people can run 10 apps at once and still sit at 60%. Others drop to 10% after a single emotionally heavy conversation. When they disappear, they're plugging themselves back into a charger. Introversion plays a role here. Research on personality traits consistently shows that introverts experience higher cortical arousal, meaning their brains process stimulation more intensely. So constant communication, notifications, emotional exchanges, it's a lot. But here's the problem. The world we live in doesn't respect psychological pacing. It expects constant availability, blue ticks, fast replies, continuous engagement. So when someone operates at a slower emotional rhythm, it gets misinterpreted as disinterest. Now let's talk about something uncomfortable. Control. Sometimes disappearing is a power move. Not always, but sometimes. There's a psychological concept called intermittent reinforcement. It's the same principle that makes slot machines addictive. When rewards are unpredictable, you become more attached. When someone gives you attention inconsistently, warm one day, gone the next, your brain releases dopamine in irregular spikes. And dopamine doesn't respond best to consistency. It responds best to unpredictability. That's why the person who disappears can become the person you think about the most. You're not crazy. Your brain is hooked on the uncertainty. But here's the nuance. Not everyone who disappears is manipulating you. Some are just dysregulated. Some are overwhelmed. Some are emotionally inexperienced. And some are depressed. When someone struggles with depression, social withdrawal is common. It's not personal. It's energy. Depression shrinks your world. Even replying to a message can feel like lifting weights underwater. From the outside, it looks like they don't care. From the inside, they might be fighting just to get through the day. Now flip the perspective for a second. Maybe you're the one who disappears. Maybe you go silent when life gets heavy, when work piles up, when emotions feel messy, when you don't know what to say, so you say nothing. Let's be honest. It feels easier. Silence buys time. Silence avoids conflict. Silence keeps you from having to explain things you don't fully understand yourself. But here's the hidden cost. Every time you disappear instead of communicate, you reinforce a pattern in your brain. You teach yourself that avoidance equals relief. And short term, it does. But long term, it builds distance in your relationships. The interesting part is this. Disappearing is rarely about the other person. It's about self-regulation. It's someone trying to manage their internal world. And sometimes, they just don't have the tools yet. Think about emotional maturity like muscle strength. Some people can hold tension, conflict, and vulnerability without dropping the weight. Others haven't trained that muscle yet. So when the emotional weight gets heavy, they put it down by walking away. Not because they don't value the relationship, but because they don't know how to stay present inside discomfort. There's also something called emotional flooding. That's when feelings become so intense that your thinking brain basically shuts down. Heart rate increases, stress hormones rise, logic decreases. In that state, people either fight, freeze, or flee. Disappearing is they flee. And here's something subtle but powerful. In a hyper-connected world, disappearing can feel like the only way to reclaim control over your attention. We are constantly accessible, constantly reachable, constantly on. For some people, vanishing for a few days isn't rejection, it's recovery. But intention matters. Are they disappearing to reset and then returning with clarity? Or are they disappearing to avoid accountability and emotional responsibility? That difference changes everything. You can tell by the pattern. If someone consistently disappears when things get real and never addresses it, that's a relational blind spot. If they communicate afterward, explain, repair, and re-engage, that's someone managing capacity. There's a huge psychological difference between avoidance and boundaries. Avoidance says, I can't handle this, so I'm gone. Boundaries say, I need space, but I'm coming back. See the difference? Now here's the part most people don't talk about. If someone's disappearance triggers you deeply, anxiety, obsession, spiraling thoughts, that's information about you too. Maybe you lean anxious in attachment. Maybe unpredictability activates your fear of abandonment. Maybe your nervous system equates silence with rejection because of past experiences. When someone disappears, it can poke old wounds. And that doesn't mean you're weak. It means your brain remembers. Relationships are basically two nervous systems trying to feel safe together. When one system runs hot and the other runs avoidant, you get this push-pull dynamic. One chases, one retreats. Both feel misunderstood. So what's the healthier way through this? Awareness. If you're the one who disappears, ask yourself what you're actually feeling before you vanish. Is it overwhelm, fear, guilt, exhaustion? Naming it reduces its power. Even a simple message like, hey, I'm overwhelmed and need a couple days to reset, can transform how the other person experiences your silence. And if you're on the receiving end, pause before personalizing. Ask yourself, is this a pattern of disrespect? Or is this someone struggling with capacity? You're allowed to want consistency. You're allowed to want communication. But understanding the psychology removes unnecessary self-blame. At the end of the day, disappearing isn't random. It's a coping strategy. Sometimes immature, sometimes protective, sometimes manipulative, sometimes just human. But it always tells a story about how someone learned to deal with stress, about how safe they feel with intimacy, about how their nervous system responds to pressure, about how much emotional muscle they've built. And maybe, instead of labeling people as ghosts or toxic right away, we get curious. What are they protecting? What are they avoiding? What are they overwhelmed by? And what am I feeling in response? Because here's the quiet truth. The goal isn't to never need space. The goal is to take space without disappearing emotionally, to step back without erasing yourself, to say, I'm here. I just need a moment. And if you've ever been the one who vanished for days, maybe this isn't about shame. Maybe it's about growth, about learning to stay a little longer, about building the tolerance to sit inside discomfort instead of escaping it. And if you've ever been the one left on read, maybe it's not about your worth. Maybe it's about someone else's wiring. So next time someone disappears, don't just ask where they went. Ask what was happening inside them. And maybe more importantly, ask what was happening inside you. If this made you rethink someone in your life or yourself, tell me. I'm curious. Do you disappear or do you chase? And what do you think your nervous system is really trying to protect? Let's talk about it.